Our last panel of the day, our moderator, Greg Najjar. Thank you, Greg. Really interesting panel. And then we're going to have cocktails. So, all good. Have at it.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, everyone. As Rich said, my name is Greg Najjar. I'm with M-Communications. I handle business development, and we are a full-service turnkey installer for various wireless networks. And I'm honored to be here with these distinguished gentlemen, representing companies who are leaders in the industry in the field of our topic of today, which is solving the connectivity challenge in building. And so before we get started, I just want to say, everyone's been really great, and I appreciate everyone's attention. So normally people will say something like, well, we're the last panel, we stand between you and drinks, and we're going to be really quick, and we're really sorry. And that's like the dumbest thing to say, because you're already apologizing and telling everybody, like, go think over there, but don't look up here. You waste everyone's time. So we are not doing that. I like being last because guess what? When we say things like, hey, if you have any questions, you want to learn more about my company, come up here and talk to me, we're right there. We're going to come right off the stage, go right to network. So I think this is the best panel. Instead of like 11 o'clock where you forget, I don't even know what my question was, or maybe they left. So anyway, enough about that. So I just want to give each of the folks here, I guess these are yours.
Test.
So we're going to give everyone here just a real quick introduction. Just tell us who you are and what you do at your company, then we'll get into the topics.
Yeah, Blaine Shore, I'm with CTS, the Director of Emerging Technology, which at our company, that's really convergence, IT, OT, security, and looking at wireless and wired networks.
Hi, everyone. What's for drinks, actually? Do you know? Oh, sorry. Barry Goldstein, I'm the CEO of TDC. I joined in May. Unlike many of you in the room, I'm new to the industry. Actually was an executive in hospitality for Starwood as well as Wyndham as the chief commercial officer, and most recently ran a business that managed amenities for commercial real estate as well as hotels, hospitals. So I'm going to come at it from a perspective of how do we work closer with the enterprise. And TDC is a 3PO.
Brendan Delaney. Yeah, there we go. Nope. Brendan Delaney. I'm the CEO of Atheron Solutions. We're a systems integrator, really focused on the upfront consultation, design, all the way through day two services. New company, but the team's been in the industry for over 20 years. It's a lot of fun.
Hi there. My name is Christian Rufert. I am the CEO of Terragens. We run an analytics service based on crowdsourced data. We provide instant visibility of the indoor quality of the network in any building in the Western world. Basically, our value proposition is instead of sending somebody out with measuring equipment and paying $1,000 and waiting 2 days for the results, you pay us $100 and you get the result in 2 minutes. And I'm the CEO, and I guess I describe my role as the kind of like chief product visionary and business development manager.
And do you want that microphone? All right. My name is Alex King. I run strategy and operations at Air Tower Networks. We are a owner-operator of public safety, cellular, and Wi-Fi networks. We design, build, engineer, own. My background is in strategy consulting, and I've been in digital infrastructure for the last 25 years. Started off owning a cell phone store when I was in college, and then kind of have gone through with, investing in and helping deploy data centers, fiber, satellites, and the like. So I kind of come at it from the perspective of how does, all of digital infrastructure fit together to help, modernize with AI.
Great. All right, Alex, so we'll stick with you. So again, just tell us more about how Air Tower is uniquely suited to solve the in-building connectivity challenge.
Yeah, well, since carrier funding is dead, as we all know, we've kind of gone to this world where venues themselves are financing these systems, and they're not cheap. And the way you really have to approach this is from being highly consultative, right? Like not every network is going to be appropriate for every building, and you got to come in and provide a huge number of different variations, varieties, financing options to the various networks. So like right now, we're doing this hospital deal. It's huge. And they've come at it from, they need a 10-year option, a 15-year option, a 25-year option. Like, are we doing this tower? Are we doing this tower? Like, okay, can you buy out this system? Oh, let's do the public safety system here. And it's just a totally different approach than when you were working with the carriers, which is like, this is what I want, you go put that in.
Great. Christian, we'll go down the line.
Okay. Well, we're less in the solving as in the pointing out of the problems. And as I said, we do that in a quick and very efficient manner, which in itself is a cost saving in the entire process, that enables service providers to find the customers that they really want to target and be much more effective in their sales process. So if you can knock on the door and have already a story and an understanding of what is happening with the customer's network, you increase your sales effectiveness, by 2x, 3x, which then translates into a cost of operation, which then translates into a lower cost of deployment. So that's our contribution to the process.
Great.
Excellent. With Atheron, where we've seen a lot of our value and really heard it from our customers, and what's differentiated us is the discovery process, which we all do discovery at the front of a project. It's about understanding what the needs of the customer are, how the technology fits that, and then how you approach it commercially, whether the operational model like Alex was just talking about, or traditional CapEx. But the next level of discovery is really the key, where the project success is driven. And that's where you have to understand this is an inherently problematic deployment for any active facility. You've got folks that are living and working in these facilities every day. You've got processes, and really it's incumbent on the integrator and then pushing it down to the contractors and other partners to work within that facility so we're as invisible as possible, because defining what that project success looks like is the key to any one of these. And that's really the big factor here. We've seen also a lot where, and taking this line from Safer Buildings Coalition, can you make the call? It's something they've integrated into their Safer Schools, but it applies to any building. And it's a driving factor that we've seen behind a couple of recent projects. One being a commercial building with a fitness center. Gentleman was working out in there, had a medical event. Fortunately, somebody was there and heard him, was able to run outside, make the 911 call, and that drove the build out of that facility. Another one was an existing facility with a DAS, but project constraints, budget constraints, didn't have a secondary facility covered. There were hard lines there, not a problem. But when you came back to it, there was an issue. Somebody had an emotional event. They were between the other employees and that hard line. And that spurred the oh crap factor. And what Murray said on the earlier panel, it's where annoyance becomes an issue. And that's really helping define those for our customers is the key.
So at TDC, we're an owner-operator. We manage in-building connectivity, and most recently we started also to manage Wi-Fi 7. A big perspective from us is that this industry, as we just shared, needs a lot of consultative expertise around what are the benefits for the clients. So one of the things that we've gone out recently have done to really create that consultative approach is we've brought people in from within the industry. We have people that have joined us that worked in CRE, ran assets themselves. We had brokers come in. We had people from hospitality. It brings a very different perspective as we approach in-building connectivity, because the number one question that we get when we walk in the door and we say, you now have to pay for it, is like, why and what's the benefit? And so that's the approach we start to take. We're absolutely neutral host. We work with the carriers throughout. And then one of the things that we feel is really important is we verticalized our solutions. So it's a very much of a perspective around the industry where one size does not fit all in this industry. So as we look at hospitality versus hospitals versus the different asset classes of CRE around mixed use or office, We've got very different solutions based on the square footage, and we try and customize those solutions and bring out those benefits. So we believe their opportunities are many and plentiful. Even though we're not being funded through the carriers, we believe we can bring out the benefits and do that in a way that we manage it. The last piece is we see, especially in the CRE world, the expertise doesn't exist. They don't have a large IT organization, and we bring that expertise around doing everything for them, from the beginning of the process all the way through supporting it, and that obviously helps, and the financing different options that we provide as well.
Thank you. Go ahead, Blaine.
So I think, we heard applications earlier, we heard use cases, what drives the use case. CTS has 16 offices across the US, and we organically or in-house provide a turnkey solution from our NOC in Greenville to our design center where we have over 50 IB waived licenses. But we can go to the customer and say, hey, what is the use case and what do you need help with? Because that may not be an in-building DAS. That might not be the answer. It might be a wired solution. It might be a wireless solution. It could be Wi-Fi 7. It could be, they need Passpoint 3.0. Do you need private cellular? Are you looking for low latency and mobility? What are you looking for? And what of these technologies will meet that use case? And so we love sitting down with the customer, consulting, working through that process, because especially with CRE, they're very concerned about budgets today. They don't want to spend money where they don't need to, but they know they need technology. So what is going to be that technology that meets that need? And so that's one of the things that I think I value at CTS is our ability to be agnostic as we deal with the customers.
Great. Thanks. And so sticking right here, Blaine, one of the subjects, of course, that we've been discussing is the role of the carrier. And we know that their funding is really strictly focused on tier 1 large venues, airports, et cetera. So given that there is an opportunity there for all of your companies to play a role from a funding solution standpoint, how do you deal with something as important as a signal source as it relates to the DAS or other in-building systems, and being that how it powers that entire solution?
Sure, thank you. So as I said previously, there are different ways to look at in-building, but we have our solutions called Forte, which is our own signal source. It's pre-approved by carriers, and that business is exploding because the carriers, as we know, are moving their strategy and their funding to other places. And so customers need that BTS, or they need that source. We're one of 3 companies approved by Andrew to provide signal source. And so we provide that. But the other thing that we do is we really drill down on, do you need an in-building DAS? You might need a Wi-Fi. You may need to enhance your Wi-Fi, which is Passpoint 3.0, which is we're hoping that now it's T-Mo and AT&T. We're hoping that Verizon gets on that bandwagon. We were hoping for private cellular or CBRS, but that's really, the MOCN's really diminishing in that arena. But no, we're seeing that with the carriers really backing out of really providing that source. Companies like ours can provide that source and for the customers.
Thanks.
Obviously, the carriers are a huge gating factor to successful implementation. And we approach it in the sense that we don't expect any funding from them. And we start to work very early, and we communicate that very early to our clients. Because one of the things that we've seen is many of the in-building providers will often tell a client that everything will be free or the signal source will be free. And we naturally work very early on in the process with the carriers. We build a partnership. We have a team of people that just focus exclusively on that. And in those conversations, we look at how can we benefit them and how could we benefit us. And even though we hear that no funding is available, we have had a lot of success getting signal source funding from the carriers. And a lot of it's around offloading their network, not always telling them they have to fund the entire signal source, perhaps a percentage of it, and it's really just around strategy. And I also agree with Blaine. We also look at the fact is you don't always need it, and it may be a different type of solution. So we also bring other types of solutions to bear to the client. But the reality is we got to live with it. We need it. It's going to be something that we have to address, and there's no way of avoiding it. So the earlier you engage, the better and more successful we find ourselves.
Yeah, I think a lot's been said already about this, and the key thing is that upfront communication with your customer and transparency about what the process looks like, because it's also not a very quick process when you have to secure your signal source. The other thing, and Rich said it earlier, when you're a hammer, everything's a nail. And in this industry, as an integrator, like Blaine said, you can't be a hammer. You have to bring the whole toolbox. It's not just DAS. It's not whether it's a signal source fed DAS, a booster system, depending on the size and location of the building. It really depends on the situation you're in, the customer situation, and also how they can fund it. If it's something where they want to capitalize it, or if they want to go through a neutral host sort of model, you really have to have a wide variety of options and be honest and upfront. Also, if you yourself are the right fit for the situation, depending on the location, timeline, and the whole nine, because that, with that discovery, you have to be honest both ways that set everybody up for success in the project.
Yeah. I'll add two things to that. One is you don't always need a carrier signal source because, there's a lot of, it's horses for courses. It might be Wi-Fi, it might be private 5G. We had an experience where we did an analysis for a real estate developer, and we said, look, if you're going to put some warehouses down, some big metal boxes, your indoor coverage isn't going to be great. And they said, okay, so what solution should I look at? And we said, well, that kind of depends on what you want to do with these warehouses. There is, and as you, I'm an ex-consultant, so if I want to make a decision, I build a matrix and go, if this, then that, and something to quickly go through. And I started looking at what those parameters were. But what was interesting was when you did a quick search or you did the troll through ChatGPT or something, it wasn't immediately obvious what the parameters were, right? And then I came up with these ideas like, is it a public building or is it a private building? Does it need to support connectivity for people or for machines, right? And a few decision parameters. And that tells you what your signal source needs to be. And you need to translate that into the world of those people. So that's number one. Number two is, if you have a public building and it is a piece of real estate, there is data out there that says good coverage will give your building 5 to 10% extra yield. That is a significant number over those years. And if you can then structure a deal in that same period where you match those cash-ins with those cash-outs, you have a compelling story.
Alex, before you answer, can you just, because we've had some great answers here, can you just maybe tie in how the funding models work as well, in this whole encompassing of signal source into the equation?
Yeah, so if I'm taking the bait correctly, there's a bunch of different models here as an operator of these networks and an owner of these networks, which would be, hey, you don't actually need to buy this $500,000 signal source all up front. We can actually amortize that over the course of 10, 15, or 20 years. And that's been a very popular model for us, as well as you can pay some of it down up front or obviously not. Other models that have come up too, though, are the fact that there is 20,000 legacy systems that are out there that are from the carriers or buildings have put in. And they're trying to figure out what to do with those, and we can actually buy those out from the owners of the buildings or from the carriers themselves. You can utilize that capital and put it towards things like the signal source, such that you're actually buying down the ultimate cost, and so you effectively can upgrade this 10, 15-year-old system for a relatively inexpensive amount of, relatively here, obviously air quotes, but it actually adds to the affordability.
So yeah, keeping on that theme, as we shift into the next round of questions. So you've got these legacy systems that you're describing. So if there's a legacy base station, or is there other infrastructure that you can reuse, or how do you approach that when a building owner maybe has to take over that responsibility?
Yeah, it's tough. You ultimately got to do a site walk to figure out what is reused. Like we actually just did one. The system was, so it's in New York. It's a huge building. It's like 500,000 square feet, 7 years old, and it is like perfect. Like this is like, as far as things go that are like 7, 8 years old that a carrier built, like we can take this thing over and like add T-Mobile and AT&T to it because it was a single carrier system, like no problem. On the flip side of it, we went to this hospital that had probably a 20-year-old system that was put in by Verizon, and very little of it was reusable. Like we couldn't, like even the couplers and the splitters are just not to the standards that we would actually need. So like most of the infrastructure, maybe 5% we could actually reuse. So at the end of the day, like we can, it's again, consultative. You have to go in and, inspect the system and figure out what you can reuse. But a good chunk of those legacy systems that are out there have some residual value, and you can, like they're, a lot of 3G, 4G systems. We can make those, we can actually upgrade those and get you something that's workable.
Great. Okay, Brendan, with the regulatory environment in Florida requiring public safety coverage retroactively in certain existing buildings, what should building owners consider when addressing those requirements?
Thanks, Rick. For this initiative, I'm really pushing customers to look beyond this as just a box check of getting code compliant and moving on from there. If you have to, and I mentioned this before, it's a construction project. It's gonna interrupt things. It's really important to zoom out and look at the entirety of the system and any of the smart building initiatives that we've talked about today. Look at the outside plant moniker of dig once. Okay, if we're going into this facility, especially look at a Class A office building, you've got hard lid ceilings. You don't want to cut 5 hatches and have to do 5 patch jobs and paints on that. That is really expensive, really time consuming. You can save money by bundling in those other solutions and looking at it also. A lot of the funding models, we'll look at that if you don't want to do a CapEx approach as a building owner or facility manager, you can look at that as, hey, let's break this down over 10, 15, 20 years. And I go back to history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. This looks a lot like what we were talking about previous, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You've got the PBX leasing model when, there were phone lines everywhere, and you went down this model of the carriers were no longer going to provide that. So, okay, everybody had to go and get a PBX. A lot of them did the leasing model. This is the same sort of concept where we've got a traditional infrastructure that was provided. Now we all have to look at, okay, how do we provide it for our customers and make it so they can afford it and keep their business going.
Great.
So.
Barry, for a commercial real estate owner managing a portfolio of assets, how should they evaluate the in-building wireless as critical infrastructure and not just a technology project?
Thanks, Greg. I think that I'll start with the end of what you said. Commercial real estate owners have to move past this being a project. They have to start to think about this as their fourth utility. We know electric, water, power, connectivity as is important. The workforce is made up of over 5, in some cases 6 generations. If you are in at least a couple of those generations, you cannot do anything without connectivity. And post-COVID, you've also got a generation that's come back that expects to be able to get in contact with their home life. And so as commercial real estate moves past projects, they really think about it in 3 different ways. They say, what's the value it can bring to me and to ultimately my asset? And connectivity, clearly, you can see the direct link to faster velocity around leasing. You see it around the makeup of the building in terms of higher quality with better connectivity. And ultimately, you've got the ability to deliver more leases at a higher value, at a higher rent, and more value back to the owner if they determine if they want to transact. The second way they need to think about it is around tenant expectations. So we talked about it's a utility, it is a must. Tenants will express complaints. Complaints go very quickly. A good example of not an office building, but a condo here in South Florida, we were working with an owner who were trying to sell out or pre-sell out the top floor of their condominium. One was going for about 50 million. The other one was going about 30 million. One of them happens to be an F1 driver. He was up there with his spouse, and then he turned around. He could not make a phone call. And he liked the unit. He wanted the unit. He told his wife to call their attorney. He could not make a phone call. He started to look at his phone. He saw SOS on it. His wife had SOS on it. They had different carriers. He left the building, did not buy the unit. That owner then called us actually to put a DAS in. So you've got expectations, and that is true in the office space as well. And the last piece that CRE thinks about when they're actually making the decision around how to think about a DAS is future. Because a lot of them think about technology for today, and they don't make the right decisions around thinking about future-proofing it. And so the ability to give them the options around scale, around the next generation of technology, is the third way they give it consideration. And then when you put that all together and you think about the brand that they're trying to create, we heard about Rudin today. There are many other very good real estate owners. They're trying to create a brand that not only exists in one location, but across the US. And many companies, enterprise companies, have the need to go into these buildings across the US. And so they need to think about not just one building at a time, but as a portfolio. And I echo what was said earlier with the earlier panel. If you can't show that value, it's very hard to get them to move forward.
Excellent. Blaine, we've heard about the concept of smart buildings. It was discussed earlier. What is CTS's approach to that concept?
Yeah, is it too early to order my drink for happy hour? I see a lot of movement back there, so I just want to make sure I went too far back in line. So thank you. So our approach is really kind of a little bit more than what I said earlier, is that when we go in, we're looking at not only the wireless, but we're looking at the infrastructure. Because I believe that not only AI, but it's going to drive everything to the edge. They talked a little bit about, well, I think that's a question, where is the edge? But it's going to, in the building, it's going to drive everything to the edge. So what we're looking at is Ethernet to the edge. We're looking at DAS to the edge. Well, that's looking at, most DAS integrators are going to say, hey, how can I put a high power DAS in there? 20, 40 watt radios, which then simplifies the process for me. It lowers the budget for the owner. It's a win-win. The problem is that AI is going to drive fiber. It's not going to drive copper. And so if we're not preparing, like I said earlier, if we're not preparing today, if we wait for 5 years from now, we're going to be way behind the curve. So a lot of our customers, like for instance, we just finished a big high school in Texas, and they're all big in Texas. And it's all fiber to the classroom. It's fiber and DC power. It's fiber all throughout the building, so that where they're already 10 gig, when they're ready to go 40 gig, it's an edge, it's not an infrastructure. And so that's how we're dealing with customers, is preparing them and try to prepare. Every time it's a budget conversation, we all know that. But we're trying to prepare them for the future with not only wireless, but wired infrastructure, so they're ready to handle that use case when it comes.
Great, thank you. Christian, how can the wireless connectivity sector be more successful?
Well, I'll keep it very short. I think it's a 3-stage matching process, which is match your tech or your solution to the use case, right? What kind of building, and to the language of the end user or the mind frame. I think if you can triangulate between those 3 points, you can be very successful.
Okay, great. All right, so again, we have some really experienced people, some senior people here, but I challenged each of them before this panel, gave them a little homework assignment, so we're going to dive into that right now. So, Alex, what AI example did you come up with that you found out was deployed in one of your solutions?
Yeah, so the the AI that I've found to be most interesting is being deployed in healthcare, and honestly, we need it. I was like looking up some stats before this, and like the number of administrators that have come into healthcare over the last 40 years is like a 3,000% increase, and the number of doctors that have entered into the workforce in the last 30 years has been 150% increase. So right now, you've got a huge number of administrators, which is why all of this cost is entered into the healthcare system. And what AI is going to really allow us to do is take out a ton of that kind of cost from these administrative types of burdens that physicians currently have to deal with. So, like, I don't know about you all, but like the last time that I went to my kid's pediatrician, like the guy was glued to the EHR. The doctor was glued to the EHR, and he's like keeps asking me the same freaking question over and over that he's asked me over the years. Like, oh, where does he go to school? Like, you should know this. Like, pay attention. Like, but he's just it's almost on autopilot where he is at. And the things that we're seeing with our clients in hospitals is the ability to actually do, voice transcription so that the physician can actually start paying attention while they're, caring for you. Takes on a lot of the administrative paperwork issues. Like the last time I went to my physician, he showed up 25 minutes late. And I get like the first slot of the day. Like, how are you 25 minutes to the first slot of the day? Like, those are the things that I think that AI really can be incredibly impactful for and help physicians actually see more patients and provide better care. And you don't need the administrative burden of that. You need physicians providing that.
Great. Christian?
Yes, well, I would say we apply a lot of AI and machine learning in the analytics service that we provide. So we're a big user in providing our services. The second story is one, and this is, we sell our services a lot to fixed wireless access providers. So people that sell essentially routers with SIM cards in them. And they sell them a lot into the retail space because, you find a location, you deploy a store, you need connectivity, you don't want to wait for the fiber, so you deploy a router with SIM cards in from like Cradlepoint or Cisco. And that supports these retail use cases. And what it does is it connects things like the point of sale systems, which collects the sales data of that, which then feeds back into a central intelligence that tracks the retail trends on a day-to-day basis and then guides things like stock replenishments and all that and makes that very efficient. And we're very proud to have helped in that use case.
Great.
Excellent. So I want to second Alex's. That would be a great efficiency gain there. But mine focuses on the human aspect of it. And from Joe's slide on the endpoint devices, there was the little technician on the far right side of it. And that's really where I think a lot of efficiency and savings can be gained by having the folks, especially in the building engineering space. There's a lot of folks that are retiring out of the building engineering space. And there seems to be a big gap in terms of the folks coming into the space. So you've got a learning curve, and you've also got folks that are digital natives coming into the space. So it comes down to getting them trained up, providing that connectivity so that the efficiencies, like with John Gilbert's Nantum, so that those insights can reach people in the field. Whether you're in the commercial real estate space or a wireless integrator, we've been in those spots where you're deploying, you don't have connectivity, and it's taking you 3-4 times longer to troubleshoot something. Something that takes a half a day is now a 2-3 day endeavor because you're going down from the equipment. Your technician's coming back up to the street level from the bottom of a garage, and it just makes it so much more painful. And how many of those happen on a year that compound to a large cost that you can really drive down with some savings while also making the tenant experience better and just those less tangible ROI and value proposition elements.
So I have 3 quick examples of clients that we've done some work with that are using, I'd say, pieces of AI. First, a large commercial real estate client in Austin, Texas. We lit up their building as well as their garage. Car will pull into the garage. They've got an app that they're using, the building app. It actually, if they've set it correctly, it will then order from the barista and it will deliver it to their office. As they're arriving to their office, it also will reset the temperature because each of the offices has individual temperature units. So very cool. I think it's very much consumer facing. The second is around a hotel that is tracking movement of people where they have digital signage and they're adjusting the digital signage based on type of day, how much movement is going on, which is quite interesting. And the hotel's trying to experiment on how to obviously capitalize on additional revenue. And the third is in the casino business, and I'm not sure this is good or not. But cashless gaming, we actually lit up a casino and the entire floor and all of their actual casinos across the U.S. And cashless gaming now you have an app, you actually can put it on the table. You've got cash that you could then take directly without actually going to the ATM where they bring it to you. But on top of that, the casino is monitoring your performance, and that at the appropriate times they're coming over and they're offering you to leave the table or stay on the table. So I'm not sure that's a good thing, but that's the world that we're living in today around AI.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I just spoke to one of the examples, Galveston ISD, with the new executive order that came out on education. So that's K through 12, higher ed, even workforce training. It's preparing for AI. And so that was one of their big initiatives, was preparing for AI with infrastructure. The other one, the use case we did a proof of concept for robots, robotics. And every robot has a brain, and the brain is AI. And so the proof of concept was, are we going to use CBRS or are we going to use cellular for this? And so inside, it was private cellular was hands down CBRS. But if you get outside and it's any kind of distance, then cellular became a bigger play for the control of the robots. So couple use cases that we've been involved with, wired and wireless.
Great. All right. That's the last question. We're going to open up to the audience. Anything that you'd like to ask our panel? All right. I know it was a lot of information. I hope you all learned something. I learned something, which is that I had hoped to leave my phone at the table, but since Rich doesn't have a $5 little clock, I had to bring this here, and what happens? 4:30, cell phone call. 4:35, cell phone call. 4:45, text. So, invest, please.
Talk to the venue. It's not my problem.
Thank you all. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. Thanks. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Thanks, Blaine. Thank you.